alternative medical practitioner from the Counseling and Psychotherapy Center, where after completion of, I'm sorry, just a moment. Her graduation, she actually had many crowds initially in the June 2006 itself. She actually founder director of Excel Consulting, and later on work as a senior program manager with NNOS Foundation. And there are many, since we have already, due to technical issue, we know we are stuck many time. I mean, many of the session time. I request ma'am to proceed further. And before that, like I request all the participants, please mute your video as well audio. In case of switch on the video, make sure to wear decent outfit, and also all your queries can be clarified in the end of the session. Good evening and thank you all. And I request Anjana ma'am to proceed further. Ma'am, floor is yours now.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here today to take this session, and it's something which is very close to my heart, Gestalt. Now, Gestalt is all about here and now. It is the present moment that makes the Gestalt therapy what it is and its success. Can you change the thing, please? Or can I? Okay. So what is Gestalt therapy? It's a form of psychotherapy. It's a way of treating people who are feeling ill at ease. Some problem is there, so they're not feeling okay with themselves. And what is the idea of Gestalt therapy? Is the idea of awareness. That is the main part, awareness. You're aware of what is happening to you, happening around you. The person being helped is encouraged to know his or own feelings and behavior and the effect they have upon the world around them. It emphasizes personal responsibility, where we are talking of I, not a general it happened, they did it. It is I. It is always personal responsibility and focuses upon the individual's experience in the present moment. That is very important, in the present moment. The therapist-client relationship, the environment, and the social context of a person's life, and the self-regulatory adjustments people make as a result of their experience and perception, all this put together is what is Gestalt therapy. Next. Can we have the next one, please? Akshalakshmi. So simply explaining Gestalt therapy, it gives attention to how we place the meaning and make sense of our world and our experiences. So what is our world and our experiences? So it helps us to give a meaning to it. Not generally just live for the sake of living, but all that a meaning to us, what they mean to us, what we feel about them. Gestalt by definition refers to form or shape of something and suggests that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Later on, there will be diagrams and things which will show you what we mean by the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. All right. The next one, please. What are the key concepts of Gestalt therapy? The key concepts include figure and ground, balance and polarities, awareness, present-centeredness, unfinished business, and personal responsibility. We will discuss each of them as we go through. Next. How is Gestalt therapy used? Generally speaking, the overall purpose of Gestalt therapy is to help the Gestalt therapy patient develop an awareness of his or her thoughts, emotions, perceptions, and understand how these internal dialogues and processes impact his or her behaviors. All right. Now I'm going to put you into, I'm going to ask you to do one small activity. I just want all of you to just do some hand gesture. Do any hand gesture. Once you've done a hand gesture, just look at it. What did you do? Whatever you did, go ahead. Do it faster. Whatever the gesture you did, you do it faster and faster and faster. Close your eyes and start feeling it and feel what you're feeling about it. Just feel close your eyes, just concentrate on it, do it faster and faster, and feel that. All right? You can just share that all in your chat. What are you feeling? Just let's have you putting that in the chat. What did you feel? What did you feel about that gesture that you did? And when you did faster and faster, did something come up? Did you feel something about it? Releasing my anger. Good. What else? Anyone else? Felt silly. Actually, you need to actually feel it. You need to go deeper down. Then only you will feel something. All right. Good. Joy. You felt free. Good. Trying to get attention. Acknowledging the amount of work I'm doing. Good. Good. Feel myself. Maybe increasingly calm. You're not sure. Good. All right. So this is what you were feeling. Good. This is where we talk about that. This is the awareness. Basically, we are talking of the awareness that is coming into you. All right. And this is where we are talking of, we need to get in touch with our thoughts, our emotions, whatever it is, and everything that is happening to us. All right. Actually, here, let me tell you one thing that happened. A lady had gone to a therapist and she was sitting and she was shaking one of her foot, shaking it as, without even realizing that she's doing it. So the therapist just turned to her and asked her, what are you doing down there with your foot? What is happening inside you? She looked puzzled. He said, don't stop. Go ahead, shake. Shake it stronger. Shake it. Shake it more. Shake it more. Go ahead. And just feel this. Shake it. And she continued to do it. And at one point, when she was shaking her leg faster and faster and harder, she broke down and started crying. So then she came out with a thing telling that I was trying to avoid getting in touch with, you were asking questions and it was coming up and I was avoiding that. My mother used to beat me up when I was a kid. So you see, we suppress things that are there inside us. We don't want that to surface. We want to hide it because it will hurt us. But then if we come to understand what is happening inside us and we face it and we complete it or we close it up, then what happens is we will absolutely be free of it and we'll be able to move on in our life. That is very important. And so this is what happened in this case with this lady. All right, next one. This is self-awareness, basically looking at yourself fully and understanding what you are. Next. Next one. The Gestalt principles were developed prior to the development of therapy, the Gestalt therapy. Gestalt psychology was founded by Max Wertheimer. Gestalt is a form, figure, pattern, or whole. Gestalt psychology was concerned with how we organize our experiences, that is perception or awareness. Next. I'm going to talk a little bit of theory and then go back into the therapy part of it. Next. Here we are seeing these are the people who had something to do with Gestalt. Ernest Mach, he introduced the concepts of space, form, and time forms. Next. Next one. Christian von Ehrenfeld, the actual originator of the term Gestalt itself, and Max Wertheimer, who was the person who came up with the theory part of it, the Gestalt theory or psychology. It was his student actually. Next. Max Wertheimer, he is the founder of Gestalt psychology. Next. Wolfgang Kohler and Kurt Kofka were the two assistants of Max Wertheimer, who added to the Gestalt principle. All right, next. It is phenomenological in that it stresses the subjective experience. Life is best understood by knowing the subjective, internal, rather than the objective and external. Now, phenomenological is actually the philosophical study of observed unusual happenings or events or people as they appear without any further study or explanation. Now, the best example would be, let's say, you're in the evening when there is, let's say the sunset or just before sunrise, there's a small flash of a green light or something like that. You just see it and you just study that. It is happening there then without going into further detail. You just study that, and that is what it is. It is the present moment that you are studying it. All right. Okay, next. Humans perceive things as wholes, and the whole is more than the sum or its part. Holism, non-reductionist. That is, it does not break it down. It takes it as a whole picture. Next. See here, we've got the figure and the ground. See, in this, you've got the figure. Basically, now if you look at one way, that is the white part or the black part, you see different things. So, or if you see it as a whole, maybe you'll see both the things coming together one by one. So that is where you need to see the whole, not one or the other. Again, you see in the second picture, you see where there is a small gap between the face over there or the round face. Actually, we are seeing it as a whole face. We are not seeing it as an incomplete face. Because that is what human beings, we want completion of anything. We don't want anything to be incomplete. And sum versus whole. Now, if we look at the small bits broken up of the whole thing, go back. Yeah. If we look at the small things that is broken up, you see that doesn't make much of a sense. But when the whole thing is there, it makes a lot more sense to us. So sum is much more better. The whole is compared to the separate parts. The whole is much more better. Yeah. The next one. You see again, if we see all the parts of the bicycle are there in one part and the bicycle is there in the other part, you see the bicycle makes more sense than having the parts. All the parts are there, the sum of the parts, but they don't make much of a use. It is the whole thing, and that is what Gestalt is. It is talking of a unified full lot. It's not talking of parts, one part or the other part of the body. Excuse me. Next one. Before Fritz Perl, Gestalt was purely academic value and would have remained so had it not been for Perl, who made it therapeutic. Yes. Next one. We're talking about Fritz Perl and his wife Laura. Actually, we always talk of Fritz Perl as the person who brought it to therapeutic use, but it was his wife Laura who did a lot of more work, but she remained in the background. All right. Fritz Perl was born and raised in Germany into a progressive Jewish family. Initially, he was a psychoanalyst. He was rebellious through his adolescence. He got a medical degree after serving World War I, and then he went on to serve the World War II. Major influence was Gestalt psychology, the holistic nature of human experience, figure-ground relationships. He was always a controversial figure, and his background was in theater, showy and confrontive, and that made it all the more for him easy to deal with Gestalt as a whole. Next. See, that's Fritz Perl and his wife Laura Perl. Next one. Fritz and Laura Perl, they were founders. Existential and phenomenological, it is grounded in the client here and now, the present moment. Initial goal is for the client to gain awareness of what they are experiencing and doing now. It is not in the future, it is not in the past. Promotes direct experiencing rather than abstractness of talking about situations. In therapies, there are times when we talk about what happened and what you did, and we repeat the whole thing through. Here we are talking of, in Gestalt, now what is happening inside you based on whatever it is. Rather than talk about a childhood trauma, the client is encouraged to become the hurt child. So you become the hurt child, and now what is happening to the hurt child is where we take the therapy off from. Next one. Key concept. principal view of human nature is that clients are manipulative and avoid self-reliance. That is, they're not willing to accept their own perceptions as valid. They're looking to others for answers. All of us look for that, isn't it? We want others to validate what we are saying. We want others to approve of what we are saying. We would rather have people, say that, okay, this is great. I'm sorry, something happened. Okay, yeah. So we always look at somebody else to tell us whether we are right or wrong, whether we are going in the right direction, and we sort of follow what the others are telling us, and we are looking, to see that the others are approving of us. And at times we try to avoid saying that I did this. We try and say it was told to me to do this or something like that. So therefore, this is what the human nature is. And using this, he said, we are going to talk about Gestalt therapy. Next one. Next one, please. Again, self-reliance and reintegration. That is basis of the entire Gestalt therapy, where we are talking of reintegrating all our parts and being self-reliant. The dialogue between the client and the therapist has no agenda. In Gestalt, we just follow the client where he goes. Only thing is, we don't let him go off the track into some other areas, but we keep him on the same track as to what he started with. That's all. And let him feel that, because they've, as we said previously, they try to escape from having to feel. So we try to keep them in the present to feel what they're feeling, what they actually are avoiding, and then we reach the conclusion. It is spontaneous, here and now experience. Human nature is rooted in existential philosophy and phenomenology and field theory. Now, when we're talking of existential philosophy, it's the inquiry of the nature of existence by emphasizing experience of the human subject, not merely thinking, but acting, feeling, living of the human being. All right. Individuals have the capacity to self-regulate in the environment. They have the capacity, but they don't. The process of re-owning parts of oneself that have been disowned. That is, again, we need to do that. All right, next. Next one, please. The now. Existential and phenomenological, it is grounded in the client's here and now. Initial goal is for the client to get awareness of what they experience and doing now. Promotes direct experiencing rather than abstractness of talking of the situation. And again, it is talking of the hurt child you become now. I'm going to break you into groups now. How many people are there? 84. All right. So I think I will break you into a group of 4 each. All right. 4 each in the breakout room. There'll be 5 minutes for all of you. And what I want you to do is, I want you to, in that room, 4 of you, I want you to start first and foremost feeling. Just close your eyes and feel inside you what is happening inside you. The various parts of you, I want you to feel that. And then slowly, I want you to come out and start feeling what is happening around you with your eyes closed. And then share with each other, the 4 of you, share with each other what you felt. All right. And then after that, we will take it further. Now I'm putting you into breakout rooms. Okay.
Ma'am, I'm not sure if the participants actually were able to unmute themselves when they are speaking, but I guess they will, once they join back, they will actually share their experience, I guess. I'm not sure about it.
All right, shall we go ahead? Shall we go ahead? All right. Now I'm going to ask you a few questions. Nobody was speaking. All right, now you can put in the chat. Tell me what. Okay, go ahead, put in the chat now. What is the feelings that you had? What body feelings that you came up when you were looking inside your body? What feelings? Did you choose to be aware of certain things, or the awareness just came? Anything new awareness that came inside you? Anything new about yourself or your surroundings? All right. What about the surroundings? What did you come across about the surroundings, Harbhajan? Harbhajan.
Ma'am, can I speak out?
Yeah?
Yeah, it is like a repercussion, you know, like how when a still water, if you throw a stone, the repercussion of waves happens. No, it is happening in the mind similar way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that is surrounding I'm experiencing.
Okay, okay. Fine. Now the next question, please listen to this carefully before you answer. I want answers from all of you. Did any of you come across any part of you that resisted your attention, or you felt there was some blockage there? Is there anything that you felt that you did not want to proceed anything further from this point at any point during your awareness? Any blockage or anything that you felt there was a resistance from you? One of them said there was inner conflict within myself to do more work and want to seek rest. Okay. You felt heavy hearted. Okay. Just tightness which did not allow me to go further. Yes. You see, all these are things that actually, when you start getting aware of yourself, your surroundings, you realize that there are some things deep rooted inside us which we are hiding, which we are holding back. And we need to explore that to come to a conclusion, because all this which we hold back inside us can lead to some physical ailments later on. We need to get out of that. All right. That is very, very important. And that is what Gestalt is all about, becoming aware of the here and now. All right. I wish I had time. We can spend about 2 hours with this exercise, but I don't have time that much. So I'm proceeding further. All right. Next, please. Next slide, please. Can I have them? Ask what and how instead of why. Whenever the questions are being asked, what and how has to be asked instead of why you're feeling this. What you're feeling, how are you feeling, that is there. Our power is in the present. Nothing exists except the now. The past is gone and the future has not yet arrived. So let's not think of what is gone and what is yet to come. For many people, the power of the present is lost because they're always thinking, I did that, that was wrong. I wish I had not done that. Or what will I do tomorrow? So the present moment is more powerful, and we need to live in the present moment. They may focus on their past mistakes or engage in endless resolutions and plans for the future, and they are wasting their time. And the power of the now is gone. Just be in the now, and that is what is more important. And that is what, all pranayama, that is what vipassana, all that talks about being in the now. That is what meditation talks about, being in the now. And that is what it is. Next one. Next one, please. So this is what it is. It's given by Buddha. Do not dwell on the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. That's what Buddha also said. Next. Unfinished business. Good. Feelings about the past are unexpressed. These feelings are associated with distinct memories and fantasies. Feelings not experienced fully linger in the background and interfere with effective contact. Pay attention on the bodily experience, because the feelings are unexpressed. They tend to result in physical symptoms. because of the unfinished business, what happens? We are preoccupied. There is compulsive behavior. There's weariness, oppressive energy, and self-defeating behavior. And the solution is to get in touch with the stuck point. All right. I was planning to do a breakout room, but since it's not working out properly here, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to ask each one of you, since you're in mute, you're in your own environment, I want each one of you to just shout at the top of your voice. Shout loudly. Shout as much as you can. Shout. I want you to do that now.
Oh.
Oh. Please mute yourself and shout. We don't want everyone else to hear you shouting. Please shout after muting yourself. Shout as much as you can. Come. Okay. All right, let's come on the chat. If you finished doing that, how did you feel now after you shouted? What feelings came up now? Well, Deepthi, you need to need to actually learn to shout a little bit more. Yes, you will be happy, relaxed. That is there. Good. Any of you, again, when you were shouting, you felt a release and you felt energy moving up, isn't it? And that is what you need to do to get the energy moving around you, not have the energy stuck. When the energy is stuck, then you cannot do anything much further. And that is where, and if we can get the energy moving, we can process it further. All right. And again, during this entire process, did any of you feel anything again that is something which is holding you back? What was holding you back? Sayab? Murtuza, what was holding you back? Yamini, what was holding you back? Try just closing eyes and feel what is holding you back. See, half the time, it is what people would think. Now, you don't have what people will think because nobody is seeing you, nobody is hearing you. Nobody is listening, isn't it? Shyness, why? Nobody is there to listen to you, isn't it? Family members will be, okay, sense of consciousness. See, all that is falsehoods. All that is not the present moment. You're all going back on what your preconceived notions are, and that is where it is holding you and it is not letting you move forward. So we need to get out of that. And actually, this is very, very important exercise where you need to be able to shout. You need to be able to shout. It's very important. All right. Good. Let's go to the next one, please. I had one more exercise, but I think we are already running late, so I'm not going to talk about it. Let's go further. Layers of neurosis. Pearl likens the unfolding of adult personality to peeling of an onion. First and foremost, we have the phony layer. It is the inauthentic layer or the stereotypical layer that we have built around us right from the beginning. And that is where we actually, it is fake and inauthentic, and people act, in front of other people, trying to show that everything is fine, and they just, don't go deep. They just touch surface of what they are talking, and that is the phony layer. And it is, like small talk, things like that. Then we have the phobic layer. Phobic layer is the layer that resists the people from seeing themselves as they are, because there could be some part of them which will cause emotional disturbance to them, and they don't want to get in touch with that at all, the emotional disturbance, because that could be painful. And, we deny ourselves that. And the self-denied part, we do not accept it, and therefore we disregarding certain aspects of ourselves altogether, and that is the phobic layer. Then we have the impassive layer. This layer, when we are in this layer, it is actually accompanied by a feeling of emptiness or nothingness, totally nothing. We have given up our total power. It actually also is accompanied by feeling stuck, not able to move on, and you're also avoiding things. They, when there are people in this, when they are in this layer, they are actually trying to manipulate people around them and avoid actually facing things that are happening. And this is one of the main problems which Fritz Perls felt was the cause of many problems in the therapy also. This caused a lot of problems, or causes a lot of problems in the therapy also. Then we have what is called the implosive layer. We fully experience our deadness. Now, this layer occurs when the client allows themselves to come in contact with their feelings, what they have pushed away previously, right? And they feel the deadness of the previous layer. And then they are touching a particular part which is now seeking completion. And that why it is called implosive is because we have pushed inside us a whole lot of things which we don't want our conscious to be aware, and it is slowly coming to awareness. And then the explosive layer. This is the final layer. When we go through all the layers, the explosive layer is the final layer. And this is where you get the catharsis. And this can be through grief, it can be through joy, it can be through anger, it can be through any means. And by itself, this is not enough. We need to continue our therapy and our growth. Only then we will be able to succeed. All right, the next one, please. Boundaries. Now, for survival, each of us, we need to make contact with the environment. Anything, we need to make contact with the environment. The functions of individual boundary is to be firm so that we can stay individual away from others, yet open and permeable, allow contact with others. Enough, we allow enough space for others to contact us. All right. And in this process, the individual assimilates nourishment from the environment. Now, nourishment is not only food, it can be various other things. All right. And rejects or keeps out that which is not nourishing, that which is not helping them. Therefore, differentiated contact naturally leads to health and development. So we decide which is good and what is bad, and we take that what is good and we leave what is bad outside. And there are boundaries that we set for ourselves. All right, next, we'll go to the different types of boundaries. What are the different, boundary disturbances? We have introjection, retroflexion, projection, deflection, and confluence. Next one. We'll talk about each of them now. Contact and resistance to contact. Contact is, again, we are talking about interacting with nature, with other people without losing one's individuality. Contact, and that is connect and withdrawal separate. Resistance to contact, the defenses we develop. This is actually self-defense mechanisms we develop to prevent us from experiencing the present fully. And these are the 5 major things. Next one. Next slide. Contact and resistance to contact. We're talking of introjection. Introjection is where we, just take everything and swallow. Whatever anyone tells, we accept it. Somebody says you're bad. Okay, I'm bad. Somebody says you're foolish. We accept. Yes, we are foolish. We don't even try to, find out why they are saying that. Are we really that? We need to be able to differentiate that. We don't. We just keep on accepting what others are saying. Or even if they say, listen, according to the scriptures, you need to wash your hands before going to the temple. All right, we need to wash hands. But why we need to wash hands? Why we need to wash feet? Nobody questions. They just accept it. It is good to do that. It is there, but we need to question that. We need to accept it by thinking about why it is right, and then otherwise it is just introjection, just taking and accepting whatever it is. Projection. It is the reverse of introjection. We disown certain aspects of ourselves by assigning them to the environment. Here, let's say I'm talking to somebody and I see a reflection of, let's say, I'm angry with my mother-in-law whom I don't have, and I, just take out my anger of my so-called mother-in-law onto that person. So I project all my anger onto the other person. So I'm projecting all that. Or it could be whatever I am feeling inside about myself, I project to them. So sometimes we say, that fellow always tells lies. Just look inside you for a moment. Just stop and look inside you for a moment. Are you the person who tells lies? Are you projecting what you are onto somebody else? That is also projection. All right. So many a times we do that. Retroflexion, turning back to ourselves what we would like to do to somebody else. That is, we direct all the anger, everything, instead of, going and telling somebody else or getting angry or shouting at somebody, we direct everything back at us, because we are wondering, if we do that, how will they react? What will happen? Will there be a big chaos? So we just do everything else. In the process, we harm ourselves. And that is wrong. Okay. Here, there is a little bit of this thing, but I want, we are talking of various things. So I just want you to do one small exercise again. All of you just close your eyes. So just close your eyes. Now, whoever are men, they will become women, and whoever are women will become men. We're going to start the day. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, just a short. I just want you to feel the whole day through. Now, remember your reverse roles of a man and a woman. Now, you get up, you're sleeping on your bed, you get up in the morning. So you're getting up in the morning, and you realize that you've changed your sex, right? You're no longer what you were. You're no longer what you were. You've become a different person. You've changed your sex. So you get up, and now, so you do your morning course, you go to the toilet, you do exactly what you would be doing if you were a man, that is the different sex, and what you would be doing if, since now you're a woman, if you're a man, so how you would do the thing. So if you change into a man, you need to shave. And if you're a lady, maybe you need to comb your long hair. All right. So go ahead and do all that and wear your clothes accordingly. Just visualize all this. Just visualize that you're doing all this. Also visit the toilet as you would visit if you were a lady and if you were a man, as you're a man and a woman. So accordingly visit the toilet also. Then come out. Since you're dressed now, ladies, as a man, you would come to the hall and you would sit down on the table and ask for your breakfast, most probably. So go ahead and do that. And women, go ahead and do what you would do as a lady would do in the house, your course in the house. Or if you're a working woman, then go ahead and do the whatever you're doing and get ready for your work. Go ahead. And slowly, after having finished your breakfast and getting ready, now you're picking up your things for the day and moving out of the house. You're playing the roles, opposite roles, so you're doing exactly what you are in the present role. Move out. You go to your workplace, and if you don't go to the workplace, you're at home, then do your work at home. That is, if your wife is always at home and then she's doing, then do the work of the wife at home. Do everything, and then slowly just spend a few minutes interacting with whoever is there. If you're at home, maybe with the vegetable vendor, the Iron Man, whatever it is, or on the phone. And if you're at work, then with the colleagues. And do other things that you would generally do during the day. Then it's the end of the evening. And slowly, let's come back home and then do the evening routine. In your present role itself, whatever you do your present role in the present role itself, and then it's time to go to bed. So you change into your night clothes according to your present roles, and you get into the bed and sleep. Now, again, next day morning, when you open your eyes, you're back to your normal self. You're just back to your normal self. You're no more in the reverse roles. All right. Now, what did you feel now? What did you do? What did you feel? Come on in the chat. What did you feel? What did you do that was different? Good, Yamini. You felt uncomfortable. I felt it's a drama. Okay. Hmm. 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 Okay. Hmm. See, you see, most of us keep on telling that wish we could be that. Now you had the chance to play the role, and some of you felt happy, some of you did not like it. So you know what it is. Instead of keeping on this thing, yes, it is humorous to correct, and uncomfortable because I did it very short. It's a pressure. So you never wanted to change the roles in your life. You never felt the other gender was much more better placed than you. Good. So you see, these are the things that we always think about. We tell that, they are much better off, they are good. But when it comes finally, there are some people, yes, who enjoy, but most of us do not want to do that. All right. I like that. All right. Let's go further. Next one, please. Next slide, please. Deflection. This is a way of avoiding contact and awareness by being vague or indirect. That is, you overuse your sense of humor, laugh it out, and just don't answer properly and get away with it. And again, this is a way of avoiding or a self-defense mechanism. Confluence, less differentiation between self and environment, a need to be accepted, to stay safe by going alone with others, not expressing one's true feeling and opinion. So this is, again, it is going with the flow. You just not want to get into troubled waters. You don't want to shake waters. So you just go along with the flow. That is where it is confluence. And again, this is a way of avoiding. Clients are encouraged to become increasingly aware of the dominant style of blocking contact. How are they blocking, and how are they resistance to contact? And with that, we can help them out. Next one. Next slide, please. Now we need to pay attention to where the energy is located and how it is used and how it is blocked. Tension in some part of the body, numbing feelings, looking away from people when speaking with a restricted voice, recognize how their resistance is being expressed in their body, exaggerate their tension and tightness in order to discover themselves. Here's a small exercise which I'll tell you, you can do later on. I will not go into it because I think I'm taking too much of time. So here, what you need to do is, if you feel tension in some part of your body, I want you to go on making it more and more tense. So if you feel pain, just go into that part of the body and you just keep on being there in that part. And if it is tension, just keep on making it more and more tense. And slowly you see whatever the feelings are coming up, and we need to then find a resolution for that. All right, let's go to the next one. Next slide, please. The therapeutic goals are increasing awareness and greater choice. Awareness includes knowing the environment, knowing oneself, accepting oneself, and being able to make contact. Stay with the awareness. Unfinished business will emerge. So awareness is the main thing over here. Next. The therapist's role is increase the client's awareness, pay attention to the present moment, pay attention to the client's body language, non-verbal language, and inconsistent body language, non-verbal message, anger, smile, and try to make them use the I message. Not try, make them use the I message. Always I. If they say, it was very difficult, I found it very difficult, they need to convert that into that. Next one. See, it is the same thing. It talk instead of I, depersonalizing. You talk global, impersonal. So it's all I that we need to make it. Questions keep hidden, safe, unknown. So whatever they are not trying to say, so we question what you're feeling. Where is it coming from? That is the things that we need to question. Language denies the power. Use disqualifier disclaimers. Yes, but. So there's no yes, but. You need to explain that what is happening inside. So the client's metaphors again are the clues to the inner struggle. What are the metaphors they are using? The language to uncover story, and elusive language cover life struggles. Okay, next one. The client's experience in therapy. Therapist does not give any interpretation. Client is led to make their own interpretation. There are 3 stages: discovery, accommodation, and assimilation. Next one. Next slide, please. In discovery, there is naturally you're discovering yourself. So there's surprise for the client. The client finds new realization about self, novel views about old situations, new look at the significant other. So all the new things that he sees, new ways of looking at situation, new discoveries about oneself, and who is the other main person in your problem. So having a different view of that person. Accommodation, recognition, they have a choice. That they don't have to do something, they have a choice. Try new behaviors in the safety of the office. They are in the therapist office, so they can try new behaviors. Expand awareness in the real world, right? So they can do that. Assimilation, learning to influence environment. How they can take steps to see that they can contact and still have influence on the outside world. Deal with surprises encountered daily. Confidence to improve and improvise. So they also learn to improve and improvise on things. Next. And what is the relationship between therapist and client? The quality of therapist-client relationship. Therapists knowing themselves, that is what happens. The therapists share the experience to clients in the here and now. Therapists use self in the therapy. Normally in other therapies, we do not disclose our feelings, etc. to the client. But in Gestalt, in the here and now, up to a certain degree, we do share our feelings, ourselves with the client to make them more comfortable. Next. Now, the types of confrontation that the therapist can do: imposing stance. The therapist meets own agenda for the client, acts as an expert, power and control in the therapist. Well, that could be one type. Competing stance, therapist promotes rugged individualism with lot of negotiation, compromise, and confidence. That's another way of dealing with the client. Confirming stance, acknowledging the whole being of the client. client's needs and experience, center of relationship, ideal type of confrontation, invites the client to look at incongruencies in verbal and non-verbal language in words versus action. So you see, the confirming stance is better where we are taking the client as a whole and we are dealing. Now, but there are times when we will need to go into imposing and competing stances also. But confirming stance is the best one. Next one. Next slide, please. Now we come to the experiments. We come to the experiments that are Gestalt experiments, internal dialogue, making the rounds, reversal technique, rehearsal exercise, exaggeration exercise, staying with the feeling. Next one. Here, identify the struggle for control in the person, fragmented between controller and control through introjection of aspects of the others. So we and then between the top dog and the underdog, there are polarities in each one of us. See, there's always a difference between who's sometimes we are the controller and sometimes we are controlled. Sometimes we are the top dog and sometimes we are the underdog. There are a lot of polarities that we have in all of us. And we need to see that the polarities actually get, meet at the center point. And here is another exercise that you could do. Hold both, you have whatever your polarity is there. You put your polarity, one in the left hand, one in the right hand, and then let your hand, hold your hands strong and just wait for them to slowly move and come in the center. When they come to the center, that is the time when they both meet together and you are actually, having both the aspects of the polarity between you, right? So let's say if you have controlling and controlled, or controller and controlled. So you're wavering between going between controller and controlled. So if you do this exercise, you will reach a point where you'll be comfortable being the controller and being the controlled also. All right. So it is basically, that is what you need to do. Now, when we are saying between critical parents, should and ought, the passive recipient without responsibility with excuses. Here we say, my parent told me to do this, parent told me to do that. It's not necessary that we need to have. We can easily question them. We can easily find out what it is. Again, I'm sorry, I don't think I should go into an exercise here again. We will, if there is time, I will go into this exercise later on. Empty chair. Shift the client into two chair for dialogue, role play, experiences, conflict, etc. Yes, empty chair. I'll show you the figures where we have the empty chair. Now, talking of the parents, now when we're talking of polarities, I'll just talk about one this thing. You see, a mother has love for her child, unconditional love for her child. Nobody can doubt that. But then she cannot allow the child to do what the child wants every time. So she put some rules. She put some, regulations, some discipline into that. And that is what we call tough love. And when there is, one side there's tough love and when there is, unconditional love, at times mother also wonders what to do, what not to do. But if we can collapse the polarities, bring them to center point, then the mother will be comfortable in playing both the roles, absolutely handling the child with love and also with firmness. And that is what collapsing the polarities will do. All right, next one. Here the empty chair now. I'm just showing you the various figures. Empty chair can be, sitting in front of another chair and doing, I'll talk about the various experiments little later. We can have an empty chair where side by side it can be there. We can have an empty chair in this way also, or we could just have an empty chair where you're standing and we have a person across, depending on how the client feels comfortable. Now, in many cases, I've not only had one chair, I put two chairs, empty chairs in front of the person. Sometimes I put three chairs also. It depends on how it goes with the client. We need to keep changing according to the client to see that we make them reach a completion in all areas. Next one, please. In this group, go up to each person in the group and speak or do something with each one. This is basically confronting, taking risks, disclose yourself, try new behaviors to grow and change. All right, quickly, this one we will do a quick this thing. Just put in the chat something about yourself which you've not told anyone. Something quickly you can put it, but don't put something which will be very, very disastrous if somebody knows, but put something which is okay. Go ahead. Let's share something. I'm sharing. You see, this is where we are afraid to share something. We need to be able to share. We need to be able to confront ourselves. And that helps us to open up and then get a resolution for whatever it is. All right. I'm still moving on. You need to make a list of things that you could share with others and carry on with that. All right. Next, please. Reversal technique. Role play the opposite symptoms and behaviors the client suffers. The client tries the very thing fraught with anxiety, therefore submerged and denied. Help the client to accept personal attributes that they have tried to deny. All right. So let's say you're having a fight with your father. So reverse the role. You become the father and play the role of the father. Right? That is what we do. And then you speak from the father's point of view. And then understand his point of view when you're speaking as a father. And once you understand the father's viewpoint, when you're playing the father's role, you can come back to actually the father's role and go back to the son's role. You can keep doing that till you find that you've got a absolute collapse, or you come to a agreement between both and you understand the aspects, and you can now deal with your father in the way that you are comfortable with. All right. Next one. Rehearsal. Behavior rehearsal, role playing a plan for a new behavior with a person or people in client's environment to reduce stage fright, fear, or anxiety, not do the role right, and encourages spontaneity and willingness to experiment with new behaviors. Here, somebody doesn't want to do something, is frightened, so you make them do the very thing in front of you, rehearse that role. Let's say you want to go and tell your principal that, listen, I am actually right in this place and you have taught me wrong, and you're frightened to go. So we make them rehearse the entire thing. Maybe you take up the role of a principal and you get them to take the role of themselves and rehearse that role as they would go and tell the principal. So they become very confident with that, so that they can go and tell the principal whatever it is. Right? This is just an example. It could be with a client. It could be, actually give a speech in front of people, whatever it is. We make them rehearse the roles. All right, next one. Exaggeration. Here, whatever the gesture is, we make them, in fact, we did this in the beginning, right? I made you to do your hand gesture and do it stronger. So that is where we can go into further depth of make them do the exaggeration more and more. It could be trembling hands or feet, clouds. So whatever the client is doing at the moment, make them do it more and more stronger, and make them feel what is happening inside, and then lead them to conclusion. Next one. Next one, please. Or staying with the feeling. Keep the client from escaping, right? Always they will try and go away to some other place. So say, no, please come back. Let's come back to the point that you were talking of. Because they are avoiding the unpleasant feeling. Here, actually, I had a client who was having some, problem with his father. And when I was talking to him, he would just deflect back and go away from the father and talk about other things. And say, okay, we were talking about your father doing this to you. So then what happened? What did you feel at that time? What are you feeling now? What is happening inside you? And I would bring him back. So we need to make them go deeper and deeper into the feeling or the behavior that they are avoiding. And once they face and confront that and unblock whatever it is, then they can have new pathways to grow and take the courage and accept the pain for whatever it is worth. Next one. Next slide, please. The Gestalt approach to dream work: not interrupt or analyze dreams. Bring dream back to life as though they were happening now. Right? A dream is acted out in the present to become different parts of the dream. Each person, every person or object in the dream represents a projected aspect of the dreamer. So when you're dreaming, if you have 5 persons, actually you are each of the person. So we put the person playing each of the roles, and then we do the integration over there. So it is actually a nice way to discover your true personality. So sometimes when we say I can't remember what happened, actually we are refusing to face what it is. All right, next one. The advantage of Gestalt therapy is that it excels by multifaceted and flexible methods and treatment possibilities. The holistic approach, not just treating the symptoms. Gestalt therapy outlook on mankind. The understanding lies in the experience. Next one. Next slide. See, we are talking of holistic, totally holistic approach, not a single one. We are not talking of one thing or the other. We are talking of totally the whole thing. Next one, please. Benefits of Gestalt therapy: substantial increase in self-awareness and self-acceptance, improved ability to live fully in the present moment, improved communication skills, better and satisfying relationship with others, a greater understanding of your behaviors and the meaning you attach to them. So all this is what you get. All right, next. Before I go to this, let me share a few of the things that of my case histories that I had with my clients. I had a client who came to me and said that actually I'm having some block inside me. I do not know what's wrong. See, I have, I'm a coach for, all the salespeople in my this thing. I said, very good. Then he said, see, I started as a salesman. I met my objective. I climbed up the ladder. I became, slowly became the regional manager, and I did well for myself. I managed my goals, and all my people under me also managed their, targets. And then I became the, regional manager, the country manager, and still I met. Everything was going fine. But now I've become the coach. I said, very good. Then what's the problem? He said, the problem is now. The thing is, when I get, I meet people, I have to call those, my seniors, my juniors, and my peers to come for counseling, for coming for coaching. But I'm able to call my juniors and say, you come, and they come. But when it comes to my peers and my seniors, I'm just not able to force them to come, and they don't come. And it is telling on my, KRA, and it's telling on my appraisal. So I need some help. So I said, okay, fine. So after taking the case history, we started working. I put him onto the empty chair as to where it is, and then I, just imaginary where this part is. I made him put that part onto the empty chair and work with it. Actually, we did a total of around 5 sessions, and actually when he came for the 4th session, he told me, I'm getting the realization that I have to call, and I did call my seniors and told them to come for the therapy. I said, very good. And then when he came to the 5th, he said, something, I managed to get them to come for the coaching session. I said, fantastic. So we said that we'll do the closure and you can go. So we did the closure, and after that he says, when do I come back? That the block inside him that was leading him not to interact with the seniors and peers was taken away, and he was able to interact and do the work. Similarly, I had another client that came, and he was actually having a problem with the, I will tell you another one where I was there in a conference and I was doing this one of the sessions, and then one of the participants came up as a volunteer, and he said that he was having a little bit of pain in the back, which was not going away. Actually, shoulder, in the shoulders and the neck and shoulders. So again, I made him go through the entire therapy, and he was actually, at the end of it, he said that the pain is gone and he's feeling good. And this continued. I kept on asking him throughout the day, and he told me he is not feeling the pain. And I gave him my number and said, if you do feel, just get in touch with me. He has not called me. That means obviously the pain had disappeared. All right. I could go on with the case studies, but since the time is running out, let me go on to what are the type of clients where Gestalt therapy will work well. Gestalt therapy can help clients with issues such as anxiety, depression, self-esteem, relationship difficulties, even physical ones like migraine headaches, ulcerative colitis, and back spasms. Next one. Next one, please. It has been successfully integrated into treatment programs for adults and teens who are being treated for substance abuse, addiction, behavior disorders, mood disorders, eating disorders, grief, loss, trauma, sex addiction, compulsive gambling, bipolar, depression, and related conditions. So it is not to be done alone. Along with other treatment, if it's used, it is very successful. That is basically medicines, medications. Next one. Limitations. Ineffective therapists may manipulate the clients into powerful experiential work. So we don't need to manipulate them. If we do that, then it will not be really helpful. Some people may need psychoeducation, means they may be, you need to sit down and tell them what is their problem, what are you going to do, how it is going to help them, and where it is going to take them. So we need to tell them all these things, right? Next one. I'm ending with a prayer given by Mr. Fritz Perls. He gave this: I do my thing, you do your thing. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you're not in this world to live up to mine. You are you, and I am I. And if by chance we find each other, it is beautiful. If not, it can't be helped. And with that, I end. Next one. Thank you.
That was a wonderful presentation, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, very simple, and the explanation with case studies and examples, it was very interesting to hear, and also a lot of information for a day. Thank you so much for that, ma'am. And now we will have the question and answer session. We will limit the questions to 2 because there are, it's already like the time is over. So we will have 2 participants to answer questions, and we will move for the vote of thanks. Yes, participants? Okay,
Yeah.
there is a question from, yes, ma'am, who is it?
This is Deepa.
Yes, ma'am.
So can empty chair exercise can be used for all the listed, whatever you have listed as ailments, like?
Yes, we can use them for that, but it again depends from client to client. Maybe we may need to use something else. Maybe we just need to bring them to awareness and it can go. So it is basically we need to, at that moment, we need to see what is happening with the client and see that. All right. See, actually, as I said, that the lady who was shaking the leg, you see, if I do empty chair with her, there's no need, because there itself she's come out with saying that she was beaten and that is what she's trying to. So we need to actually heal the inner child with her and move. So for that, we don't need an empty chair. We need to do something else, right? So
Yeah.
we need to be aware of what is happening all around that person. So that's why, it's not only the person, their hand shaking, their eyes, blinkering, their face twitching. We need to keep seeing that and ask them, what is happening there? What is happening inside you?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Get it?
Yes.
And from that, we need to go down deeper. And if we find that we need to put them on the empty chair, then we put them onto the empty chair.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Deepa ma'am, and also thank you, ma'am. There is a question from Deepthi. She has asked, which layer does the client or patient experience during therapy?
Again, it depends on the person. It can be, the first layer, the phony layer. It can be any layer. That is basically, we need to see that we uncover the layers and see that they go to the last layer, the implosive layer, where they are able to get out of it, and then we take them further into therapy and see that they are healed and they can proceed further.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So, participants, we know that there are a lot of questions that you want to ask. Kindly text us to any of the core team members, or you can mail to us mywebinarfeedback@gmail.com, so that we will ask ma'am to reply it, and so that we can get back to you with the answers. Thank you so much. And now I request Dr. Salim sir for delivering the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am, for the inviting vote of thanks. And today's the resource person, Dr. Anjana, was presented very well. It was a 225th session. It was a very good topic, Gestalt therapy and its usage in mental health. In psychology, that Gestalt therapy is playing vital role. Ma'am, thank you very much. You explained very well with the case studies and empty chair method. And of course, so you explained about the benefit of think through like depression, stress, not only that, migraine, and the pain, back pain, all those things. So it was very well explained by you, ma'am. Thank you so much. The participants also, they observed a lot of techniques, particularly about the empty chair methods. So they can utilize, I believe that they can utilize in the counseling sessions. So it was a very well practical session, ma'am. So on behalf of core team and other associations, I want to give you a vote of thanks. I would like to thank you on behalf of American College Madurai, Madras School of Social Work, and Department of Psychology, MK University, and MS Chellamuthi Institute of Mental Health, and Red Pond Educational and Psychological Research Center, Madurai, and Psycho-Oncological Association, Turkey. So thanks to today's reception, Dr. Anjana, and thanks to all the participants. Thank you so much. And we will meet at another session and tomorrow evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you. Thank you, Salim sir, for the wonderful vote of thanks. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome, ma'am. Yeah.
And leave now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.